take?
Is there a copy I could have, or is there? Awesome.
I'll just say welcome, everybody. We'll invite Judy and Susan, who are here, up to light candles.
Yep.
I don't know if it's weird to intro Kol Nidre and then have it played. I don't know if you're going to talk about the words, in which case.
So I mentioned the words at the end of it. It is a bit emotional, what I'm going to be saying. I mean, it's not super long.
So maybe,
but like,
maybe cello and piano.
I would do cello and piano first, and then do the intro. Like, I feel like the cello and piano also like put people like in the. I imagine it being like a powerful.
Okay.
I don't know. What do you think?
I kind of feel like the music will allow them to emote and reflect on their words.
Alright.
So if you're saying something that's...
Hello.
Hello.
Would you like me to tell you a 10-second version of what I'm talking about?
In the zone, feel good.
No. Kol Nidre.
I would listen to it.
Okay.
I mean, I think it'll be fine either way. It's not.
Right.
I think they're all kind of in the same.
Okay. It's like weird, like they like...
What's the meditation?
It's just like, I don't know why we read this page to ourselves. We can skip that.
Because I think that's for me what seems a little weird about it is just like that there are so many things with the word.
Yeah. So maybe I'll do this at the beginning, at the intro.
And then I'm doing Hashkivenu. Sorry.
Yeah, kind of housekeeping. I don't know what's on there. Not...
Yep, it's right there.
Yeah, okay, great.
And if there's anything else you want me to do during just
Did you find Joel?
Oh good, it's not that all of these pages are just for this evening.
I got all of them beforehand. Alright, I can come on.
Did you hear anything about Steve Storm? Zeta?
Lynn Hazel.
Yeah, look at that. Okay? Doing good? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Hey, we're getting there.
Oh yeah, it's on the Judy Gillens, Susan Gold.
Good. Yeah, 'cause that was it's the one thing that wasn't on mine. They added that later.
I think what I was just talking to them about was that we might be moving this meditation might actually be further back.
Okay.
But helpful us
Yeah,
out.
that's cool. Whenever he says this
It'll
guy
be
goes
fine.
first, then I'll come later. Yeah, back in the day, people would sit on the seat. They filled it all the way to the back. On the stage.
I wonder how many people watched.
First day, the other ones,
job search. It's just who do I have this year? Class with Rabbi Dorf this semester. Still. He's a living legend. And Rabbi Fenton. She's the library rabbi.
So, Shana Tova. Good evening. It is not yet Yontif. If you are watching from home, close the other tabs that are open right now. How beautiful that you could be anywhere in the world, as David taught us over the weekend. You could be anywhere else in the world today, and you're with us. And how blessed we are to have you with us tonight on this really beautiful and interesting night of Kol Nidre, as we prepare ourselves, we prepare our souls and our bodies for Yom Kippur, for a day of looking into ourselves and trying to find the best parts of ourselves to bring forth. Trying to find the not as good parts of ourselves to hide away. Trying to remind ourselves how strong we are and how kind we are and how giving we are and how holy we are. This is a night, it's one of the only nights of the year, the only night of the year, where we put on a talit, a talis. So if you have one, put it on. If you didn't bring one, we have a number of them out in the hallway, and if you'd like to put one on, you can put one on. We have something different this year as well. We've invited our friend Joel Shemada to play in just a few minutes, to play a piece from Kol Nidre for us to help get us set in the mood, to help us feel the weight of the evening, something we've never done before. But until there's been questions about instruments on Shabbat and instruments on holidays. We'll have a big discussion this year going into that. But either way, it is still light outside. It is not yet Yontif. It is not yet a time where we would normally have to put instruments away, although we're lucky to have Eileen on the piano as well. I've just learned that for the past 40 years, Susan and Judy have been lighting candles for us on Kol Nidre for Erev Yom Kippur. For 40 years, they started because Susan's husband, Ira of blessed memory, was the president, and it was the president's wife who helped light candles on Erev Yom Kippur. And Susan said, I'll come up if I can bring my bat mitzvah class with me. And so for years, it was 5 of them, and now it's the 2 of them for, this is their, I guess, 41st year. You've skipped a couple years in there. It's been around 40 years of lighting candles. So I'd like to invite the 2 of you up now to light the candles for us.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Yom HaKippurim. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higiyanu
Thank you so much, Susan and Judy. And if you're interested in joining them in future years, to be part of this legacy, let us know. I'd like to invite up our rabbinic intern, Rachel Simmons, to share some words as an introduction to Kol Nidre.
When my parents tell me the story of my birth, they tell me two different versions. In the first version, told by my 6'4" career military father, he was holding my mother's hand when I was born, squeezing, telling her calmly as I emerged gray with the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck and my head, that everything would be okay. In the second version, told by my mother, the psychotherapist, my father was at the foot of the bed when I emerged gray with the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck, and in my mother's version, was frantic and shrieking, "My baby! My baby!" I was also present at the moment. I'm thankful I can't remember it, and I cannot actually tell them which of them is more accurate. I would, however, note that I have a bald spot on the side of my head that I've had my entire year from that umbilical cord. It's a very interesting birthmark that sparked a lot of interesting conversations with elementary school friends. To be honest, though, as a kid, I just believed my mother. But the older I've gotten, the more I've come to realize that both stories were probably true. My father's version is one of hope. He probably did do a whole lot of reassuring of my mother. He was scared, and so was she, but he was desperately hoping that everything would turn out fine, and it did. On the other hand, my mother's version is one of intimacy and vulnerability. My mother probably really did see the fear that my dad was trying to hide from everyone else in the room. She knew him better than anyone else on the planet, and she knew that he was scared that my beginning would also be my end. So what I'm saying is that, in a way, they both told me the truth, even though their two versions don't match perfectly. This is a lesson about the importance of nuanced and multi-layered truth, and it helps me each year as I prepare for Yom Kippur and Kol Nidre. This is because Yom Kippur raises a similar paradox. Is God an all-knowing, all-merciful source of beauty and love, as we see throughout our texts? Or is God a judge and a king holding us responsible for our failings, who will one day determine that it is time for us to die for reasons that we do not comprehend? Just like with the story of my birth, these are two distinct ways of thinking about the divine. And while the Psalms, I believe, are speaking a deep truth when they say, Kol hanshama tahalel Yah, that every soul and every tree and every clap of thunder has a unique and beautiful way to celebrate creation, I also believe the High Holy Days liturgy, especially on Yom Kippur and on Kol Nidre, is speaking truth when it leads us right to the edge of our discomfort, plops us down, gives us a mirror, and says, look at yourself. This pain, this imperfection is also an inescapable and important part of life. Look around you. The synagogue we sit in, the songs we sing, and the scrolls we read from should feel familiar to us in a way. They should feel like home. On Shabbat and other holidays, we should feel safe here with each other, with God. Safe and confident and comfortable. But not on Yom Kippur. We are not here tonight and tomorrow to feel comfortable. We are here to be sacredly uncomfortable. We are here to feel awe, yes, and to experience the beauty of Kol Nidre, the power of our tradition. But on Yom Kippur, we must face the painful reality that even in a year where the world has been ravaged by a pandemic, we still hurt each other. We, the people in this room, we, including me, everyone on the bima, we have to own that. We still lied. We still gossiped. We were still unkind. We were still human, and we have to own that. So both views are truth. God is there in the beauty of the world and the warm hug of a friend, and God is also there in that sick feeling in the pit of our stomachs when we know we have hurt someone and done something wrong. Kol Nidre tells us literally that every single vow, every single word, every single promise, every single thing we have done matters. And perhaps now, in the face of the past year and a half, and so much shared pain, our actions and their consequences matter more than they ever have before. Gemar Tov.
As we reflect on those words, we listen now to Joel Shimada and Eileen Weiser play Kol Nidre. Thank you both very much. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Eileen. It's been a long time since I've gotten to find myself lost in live music. It's been a very long time since I've just been able to close my eyes and feel it and let it flow through me. So thank you so much for awakening our souls and getting us ready for the words of Kol Nidre by reminding us of the haunting melody. Joel, thank you. Looking forward to working with you again in the future. I'd like at this point to invite up the Reilanu family to come and join us on the bima. We're on page, if you have a machzor, we're on page 397. A meditation before Kol Nidre. Page 397. Eternal God, who calls us to repentance, we are grateful for the opportunity to answer your call, to forsake our sins and to turn to you with all our hearts. Yet we know that repentance is difficult. We know that there have been times when we resolved to mend our ways and did not succeed. Even the admission that we have done wrong does not come easily. Our pride is as tall as the mountains. Our vanity is as wide as the sea, and excuses abound. But before you there are no secrets. To you all stands revealed our pettiness and our greed, our selfishness and our weakness, our running to do evil and our limping to do good. All these are known to you. On this night of atonement, we yearn to become better than we have been. For you, O Lord, have given us the great gift of atonement, enabling individuals and communities to return to you and to do your will. Open our hearts to the call of this sacred night, so that the words of our prayers may remain with us to renew us and to refine us. May our deeds make us worthy to hear your divine assurance, Salachti, I have forgiven. If you're able, please rise as Michael and Lori open up the ark. Bishiva shel mala, uvishiva shel mata, al dat hamakom v'al dat hakahal, anu matirin lehit palel im ha'avaryanim. By the authority of the heavenly court, and by the authority of the earthly court, with divine consent and with the consent of this congregation, we hereby declare it permissible to pray with those who have transgressed. I'd like to call up now Miles Simpson, Wendy and Peter Margolis, Cindy and Marshall Shear, and Art Pfefferman to hold 6 Sifrei Torah. I'd like to invite Benny to come up and help us pass them out.
Kol Nidre Ve'esarei Ve'charamei Ve'konamei Ve'chinoyei Ve'chinusei Ve'chinusei Ve'chinuyei Shavuot v'charamei v'konamei v'chinusei v'chinuyei de'in darna u'de'ish tavana Sarna al nafsha tana miyom kippurim zeh ad yom kippurim Abba Aleinu Icharatna vehon Yehon Sharan Yehon Sharan Yehon Sharan בטלים ומבוטלים, לשרירים ולקיימים, נדרנה. ושבועתנה לשבועות.
For the second recitation of the Kol Nidre, we invite up Tammy Ratzenwink and David Wink, Buzz Schenkerman, Erica Miller, Spencer Miller, and Jessica Dennis.
There should be three on each side. Come closer to me.
Is that fair?
Three in a row.
No.
Thank you. Kol Nidre ve'esarei ve'charamei ve'konamei ve'chinuhiyei ve'chinusei ve'chinusei ve'chinuyei Shavuot v'charamei v'konamei v'chinusei v'chinuyei de'in darna u'de'ish tavana al nafsha tana miyom kippurim zeh ad yom kippurim hara aleinu איחרתנה והון יהון שרן יהון שרן יהון שרן Votalim לשרירים ולקיימים נדרנה לשבועות Nidrona, Oshvuatana, Oshvuatana, La Shavuot.
For the third recitation, we invite up Heidi Birnbaum and Mark Birnbaum, George Mitchell and Jean Mitchell, and Don Zimring to hold the Sifrei Torah.
Kol Nidre ve'esarei v'charamei v'konamei v'chinoyei v'chinusei v'chinuyei O Shavuot v'charamei v'konamei v'chinusei v'chinuyei De'in darna u'de'ish tavana u'de'ish tavana u'de'yacharina v'dasarna al nafsha tana B'yom Kippurim zeh ad Yom Kippurim Haba aleinu letovah Kon icharatna ve'on Yehon Sharan Yehon Sharan Itelinum votalim la sheririn vela kayamin nidrana la nidre Oshvuatana La Shavuot
As these are going back into the ark, let's read the English of Col Nidre. All vows, oaths, and promises which we made to God and were not able to fulfill, from last Yom Kippur to this Yom Kippur, may all such vows between ourselves and God be annulled. May they be void and of no effect. May we be absolved of them and released from them. May these vows not be considered vows, these oaths not be considered oaths, and these promises not be considered promises. On page 400.
ונשלח לך עדת בני ישראל, ולגר הגר בתוכם, כל לכל העם בשגגה. צלח נא לבון העם הזה, כגודל חסדך, וכאשר נישאת לעם הזה ממצרים והנה ושם נאמר סלחתי כדבריך ברוך אתה, אדוני אלוהינו, מלך העולם, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. ברוך אתה, אדוני אלוהינו, מלך העולם, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
Be seated. It is my honor to call up the president of our synagogue, Sherry Mark, to share some words with us.
That was really emotional. Thank you. Kind of brought tears to my eyes seeing everyone here in person this year, which I'll talk about more in a minute. Okay, I need to figure out my angle here. Life is full of lessons, and this past year and a half has been full of them. A personal lesson: careful what you wish for. Last year, I gave this appeal to an empty sanctuary while being recorded. It felt so strange not to be standing in front of this congregation live, and now here we are. Another lesson I recently learned is about perspective, which is also your frame of reference or viewpoint. I hope you are enjoying the second annual TEC swag bag that we distributed at Schmoozapalooza this year. What a lovely morning it was, and a quick but heartfelt thank you to everyone who had anything, and I mean anything, to do with that project. I had many moments of perspective as I walked and schmoozed my way around the parking lot. I had the opportunity to talk to a new member who told me how much he and his significant other are enjoying being members at Temple Etz Chaim. They have both been members at another synagogue, and how the feeling they get here is different. It's optimistic, it's upbeat, happy, and warm. They feel an excitement anytime they attend services or events, and they feel grateful for the opportunity to attend and participate. As new members, they are very attuned to seeing and feeling the differences in varying communities. In the moment, it made me feel good to know that they were happy. And then I thought about it, and I thought about our conversation. And I was really glad that they were happy, but it made me think, I love TEC, but I just thought I was a little biased. I realize, though, it is the human condition to take things for granted and become complacent over time as we become more comfortable. And I believe this is to be true with our own relationship with TEC. So let's take a moment to zoom out, now that we've all become Zoom pros, and try to see with fresh eyes. Let's take inventory of what we have now and how and where it all began. Let's begin with our outstanding rabbi, whose love of Judaism, combined with his remarkable intellect, quick wit, brings us life, energy, and connection into our community. His energy is boundless, and if you've taken the time to experience a class with Rabbi Averbach, one like he gave last Sunday, you will know what a wonderful teacher he is too. He can bring a prayer to life, new meaning to a holiday, and inspire an even greater love of Judaism. He is now accompanied by our rabbinic intern, Rabbi Rachel, who we heard a few minutes ago, who joins him on most Friday nights and some Saturday mornings. She sings with the most soulful voice, carrying us through the service. And boy, as you know now, she can tell a story too. Many of you may not know that Rabbi Rachel also teaches our children. She attends board meetings, visits our preschool, and in a pretty short amount of time, she's become a well-loved fixture here at TEC. Of course, we must also pay tribute to our formidable Rabbi Emeritus, Rabbi Spiegel, who you could still find here on campus on Tuesday mornings teaching his classes, as well as on the bima here as the need arises, and it arose a few weeks ago on a Friday night. If you came to second day Rosh Hashanah or streamed it, you can attest to the fact that a Rabbi Spiegel sermon never disappoints. What's happening in our schools? We are thriving, though that almost sounds and feels inadequate in this moment. TEC's preschool has its largest enrollment ever, and in no small part due to its incredible reputation through the Conejo Valley. While the ECE remains steadfast in bringing Jewish education to our little ones, non-Jews join waiting lists to get into what is rightfully known as one of the best infant care and preschool programs around. There is so much joy on our ECE campus every day, thanks to the tangible and heartfelt love from Debbie Blumenthal and her incredibly warm, caring, and hardworking team. Our religious school has adapted over and over again throughout the pandemic to continue providing top-notch Jewish education from kindergarten through 12th grade. Make no mistake, one of the biggest reasons families continue to seek out Temple Etz Chaim is our religious school. Our quality Jewish education, combined with the caring and nurturing environment Joyce Bronstein and her dedicated team of teachers create for our children, has a reputation that speaks for itself. We continue to have a very active USY run by Shannon Tepfer, who made sure all our USYers had a fun and meaningful year filled with growth, learning, and offered social outlets in new and creative ways. Shannon's energy is palpable, and she keeps our chapter vibrant and the kids coming back. Finally, our administrative offices, run by our executive director, Gideon Manzor, and his right hand, Shane Silverstein. Between them, there is nothing we can ask for that can't be accomplished. They are the glue, maybe the gorilla glue, that holds TEC together behind the scenes. And while they aren't the center of attention, they are the supporting cast without which the show would not go on. But perhaps the most quintessentially Etz Chaim characteristic is our incredible volunteer base. Our selfless, dedicated congregants give so generously of their time and talents, which in turn allows us to reach far beyond what our financial means would otherwise allow. Here at TEC, one simply has to put out a call or an SOS, and rest assured, folks answer. This room and the foyer that we walked in this evening was largely put together by volunteers who answered the call to help. Our bingo team, most of whom have been coming together to run our largest and longest running fundraiser every Thursday night for over 30 years. Our social action committee regularly feeds the hungry. We're reclaiming the TEC garden, and the list goes on, and we, all of us, are the lucky beneficiaries. For anyone who has been around for a while, this volunteerism is not new and not surprising. It goes back to the synagogue's founders and earliest families who did all of this since TEC's inception in the 1960s. They literally built this campus brick by brick, tree by tree, and member by member into what this is today. If you look closely, well, it's behind in the ark behind the doors, the Torah covers, they are hand embroidered by the original TEC sisterhood from the 1960s. And throughout this building, there's hand-carved wooden mezuzot made by a talented and generous member at the time. And down the hall by the office is a whole hallway of plaques dedicated to volunteer service awards dating back more than 50 years. Temple Etz Chaim was born of culture and contribution and service, and retains its unique culture through big-hearted people who continue to believe in and sustain our founding principles. As a result of all our early leaders did, we can all be here today to reap the many benefits, to have the privilege of raising and educating our children, to celebrate life cycle events, and to mourn with community. It is with gratitude to all the past leaders and founding members who made our ability to daven, grow our personal relationships with God, and find true and lasting friendships. We thank you. I stand here tonight continuing the tradition of giving this appeal like all presidents have done before me, so we can ensure that the next generation will have the same opportunities that we have so been generously given. And it is with the spirit they cultivated that I stand here tonight asking you to sustain this precious inheritance. Your membership dues makes the air conditioning that we are enjoying in here tonight run. It keeps the lights on, the facilities clean, the phones answered by dedicated staff. But so much of what makes Etz Chaim the home we've come to know and love is our ability to help those who cannot afford membership or tuition. Programs that bring us together, the music that enhances our services, and of course, those Blue High holiday bags we've come to cherish these past 2 holiday seasons. It all requires financial resources beyond what our membership dues allow. It takes a village. It takes a village of willing individuals to lead our community, our kahila, into the next generation. The village is made up of individuals, each with their own special, unique talent, skills, smiles, and energy, so that our village can thrive. And thriving we are, in spite of an ongoing pandemic. Not every member of the village has the same set of skills, but when every member gives something of themselves, the sky's the limit. So in your swag bag was a bright blue donation card, as a reminder, bright blue. Consider what you have given in the past. Can you move up a level? Can you fold over a second level, or maybe even a third? Your generosity allows us to maintain the high standards of maintenance and professionalism that we have come to accept and expect as our norm. Just as not everyone in our village has the same skill set, we aren't all going to give at the same level, but imagine for just one moment if every single one of us folded back at least one tab. How amazing would that be? My goal and fervent hope is that together we can look to the future out of the same lens and perspective and keep TEC vibrant and thriving. L'dor v'dor, from generation to the next generation, keeping TEC alive, vibrant, and thriving. That is my goal, and I cannot do it without everyone's help. As Helen Keller once said, alone we could do so little. Together, we can do so much. Shana Tova, and I wish everyone an easy and meaningful fast. What's that?
Are they going to collect them now?
I'm sorry?
Is Miles going to go around and collect?
Oh, are we gonna collect? Oh, where's my mask? Sorry. Yeah, wanna collect?
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sherry. And thank you, Miles, for going around and collecting now. I'm sure some people are going to need to think about it and talk about it as a family. For those of you at home, Miles will be coming to your house tonight, just after services. We should be able to be here by 10. Let's see. If you start and see me. I do appreciate it. Thank you, and thank you for those very kind words. I did not know that was coming, so thank you. We'll turn back in our Machzor now. We're on page 401. And invite up Evie Macaulay, okay, there she is, to lead us in the reading on this night of atonement.
O God of forgiveness, on this night of atonement we come before you, haunted by memories of duties unperformed, of promptings disobeyed, of beckonings ignored. We confess that there were opportunities for kindness and service which we are allowed to pass by in the year just ended. We are ashamed of sins committed with evil intent, as well as of follies committed unwittingly. or even with good intentions. Make us honest enough to recognize our transgressions, big enough to admit them, strong enough to forsake them. Humble us by showing us what we are. Exalt us with a vision of what we may yet grow to be. Keep us ever mindful of our dependence upon you, and help us to understand your need of us. United with you in a holy partnership, may we dedicate our lives to your law of love. Help us to create homes filled with joy and harmony, and to labor for peace among communities and nations. On this sacred night, grant us atonement and help us find serenity within ourselves. Kindle within us the fires of faith and set aglow our courage to live the words we pray.
Thank you very much, Evie. We invite up now Rabbi Spiegel and Linda Spiegel to open up the Ark for us. If you're able, please rise. We'll turn forward now to page 408 for the beginning of the Ma'ariv service, the evening service, with the words of Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
You may once they close the Ark, you may be seated. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Rabbi. We'll read responsively on page 409, Ma'ariv Aravim, by 2 lines. Praised are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, whose word brings on the dusk of evening. Opens the gates of dawn. Your understanding regulates time, and the stars above follow their appointed rounds in response to your divine will. You remove the day and bring on the night. You separate one from the other. May you rule over us as you rule over nature. Praised are you, O Lord, who brings the evening dusk.
Ma'avir yom u'mevi layla, mavdil ben yom u'vein layla, Adonai tzvaot shemo, El chai v'kayam, Tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch ata Adonai. Ma'ariv Aravim.
Amen. Page 410.
b'shachbeinu uvkumenu nasiach bechukecha v'nismach b'divrei toratecha ov mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed hem chayenu le'orech yameinu
Page 412, we join together for the words of Shema and Baruch Shem and Ve'ahavta.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha ub'chol nafshecha ub'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha v'shinantaham levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'beitecha uvlechtecha b'derech ושוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך, וישערך. Adonai Elohechem emet.
Who is like you, O Lord, among the mighty? Who is like you, glorious in holiness, revered in praises, doing wonders? Page 418, towards the middle of the page, the lead-in to Mi Chamocha.
U'malchuto v'ratzon kibalu aleihem Moshe v'nei Yisrael lecha anu shira v'simcha haraba v'yomeru chulam mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi chamocha ne'edar b'kodesh Nora tehila osei feleh Malchutecha ra'u vanecha bokei hayam lifnei Moshe ze'eli anu ve'ameru Adonai yimloch ve'olam va'ed V'ne'emar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov Galo miad chazak mimenu Baruch ata Adonai Baruch u'baruch Shema Ga'al Yisrael Amen.
On page 420, we find Hashkivenu. And if you've been here in the last few months, you'll know this is one of my favorite prayers. But I think it's amazing how the same words on a night like tonight can take on a slightly different meaning. On Wednesday night, I lead Minyan on Zoom. And I remember a couple of weeks ago before Hashkivenu, we paused and I invited everyone in the room to imagine a cozy night where maybe it was chilly and you have some hot cocoa and you're cuddled up under a blanket by the fire. And I said that could be maybe what Hashkivenu was like, that sense of security. But tonight, I'd like to share with you a slightly different image. I'd like you to think about a time when you couldn't sleep. No matter what you did, you couldn't get comfortable. You were tossing, you were turning. Maybe you were thinking about something and you couldn't stop thinking about it. Maybe there were noises in the house. And I know for me, when I've had nights like that, there comes a point where I start thinking ahead, Or I'm not necessarily thinking about the moment and how to get comfortable. Or I'm looking forward to that cup of coffee. I'm looking forward to the sunlight. I'm looking forward to the hope on the other side. There's maybe not the same thing that gets each of us through a difficult night, whether it's a physical night where we can't sleep or a night of the soul, where we are wrestling with our imperfections. But because tonight is a night where we look at those ways in which we have fallen short, I'd like to invite you, as we sing Hashkivenu, to not just focus on the cozy and protective and sheltering beauty of these words, but also on the promise that even though we are tossing and turning in this messy and imperfect night of the soul, that God's there for us and is going to bring the sun on the other side, even if it's kind of a restless night. So with that, Hashkivenu, page 420.
Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu, L'shalom, V'hamidenu, Malkeinu, L'chaim. Ufros aleinu, Sukat shlomecha, V'taknenu, Be'etzah tova milfanecha, V'hoshienu, Leman shemecha. V'hagen ba'adenu, v'haser me'aleinu, oyev dever v'cherev v'rav, v'yagon v'yagon. V'haser satan milfahanenu, milfahanenu me'achreinu, ובצל כנפיך תסתירנו, ובצל כנפיך תסתירנו. כי אל שומרנו מצילנו, מצילנו אתה. כי אל שומרנו מצילנו, מצילנו אתה. ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום. מעתה ויד העולם, מעתה ויד העולם. ופרוס עלינו סוכת, סוכת שלומך. ופרוס עלינו סוכת, סוכת שלומך. יא לי 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 לי, יא לי 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 לי, לי 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 לי, יא לי 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 יא לי 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 לי, יא לי לי לי. Baruch atah Adonai, Apore sukat shalom, Aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael. Apore sukat shalom, Aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael. V'yal, v'yal, v'yal Yerushalayim.
The Torah reading for tomorrow includes the words on the bottom of page 420 and 421. We can read them together. For on this day, atonement shall be made for you to cleanse you. For all your sins shall you be clean before the Lord.
ביום הזה נכפר עליכם, נתערף לכם, לכבוד עליכם,
Page 422, Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah. V'almad yivrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayeichon u'v'yomeichon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael ha'gala v'zman karib v'imru Amen. Yesh me'Rabbah mevarach le'alam olam me'yomaya Yitbarach Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitromam v'yitnasei v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudeshah Le'ela ule'ela mikol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata ta'amira v'yahalema v'imru Amen.
Over the course of the next 24 hours or so, we'll be saying the Amidah somewhere around 6 times. We have tonight's Ma'ariv service, and then tomorrow we have Shacharit, Musaf, Mincha, Ma'ariv, and Ne'ilah. 6 times over the next 24-ish hours, we'll be saying the Amidah more than any other time during the year. We think of the different parts of ourself. Each time you read through these words, each time you strike your chest so gently, each time you recall who you are and who you've been and who you want to be, try to find a different part of yourself that you're focusing on. Is it on your personal life? Is it on your professional life? Is it on your family life? Is it on your extracurricular life? Which part of yourself are you focusing on now? So those who are able, please rise for the first silent Amidah of Yom Kippur. We're on page 424. It goes through page 440. When you're finished with your personal prayers, the words in Hebrew or English, or just the words that are breaking out of your heart, then you may be seated. But for now, we rise and face the ark for Amidah.
ועל כולם, ועל כולם, יתברך ויתרומם, יתברך ויתרומם, שמך מלכנו תמיד לעולם ועד. ועל כולם, ועל כולם, יתברך ויתרומם, יתברך ויתרומם, שמך מלכנו תמיד לעולם ועד. והוא החיים יודוך סלע, והללו את שמך באמת, האל ישועתנו ועזרתנו, עזרתנו סלע. ועל כולם, ועל כולם, יתברך ויתרומם, יתברך ויתרומם, שמך מלכנו תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך, הטוב שמך, ולך, ולך נאה להודות.
You can close your books for a moment, for a lot of moments. Thursdays are my day off. I know. A day to try to get done all the things that most people do on the weekends. Sometimes I get to have lunch with my dad, or I go shopping for groceries, I do laundry, which makes me wonder what I'm going to do tomorrow, because Yom Kippur is on a Thursday this year. But one thing I like to do on Thursdays is go for a hike, often with my mom. We don't go every week. Sometimes it's too hot, or I have too much work to do, or COVID protocols get in the way, but we often hike. We've trekked through the hills of Tarzana and Malibu and Thousand Oaks and Agora. On one Thursday, we were hiking right behind my mom's friend, Kathy and David's house. At the end of the hike, my mom asked if we should surprise her friend Kathy and knock on her door. It's my day off. I said, sure. Then my mom remembered that it was Thursday and Kathy works on Thursdays, so we decided to go to her store instead. Surprise her and her coworker, who we also love, and then grab lunch. As we're discussing the plan, my phone rings. It's Kathy, the woman we were just talking about surprising. In some shock, thinking that perhaps she sees us from her house, or she saw our car, I answer the phone in disbelief, and I say, "What?" And she said, "Is that how a rabbi answers the phone?" And I explained to her that we're on our way to surprise her at work when she tells me that she was calling to ask if I could come to her work. They needed a rabbi. Who needs a rabbi? Who on a Thursday, shy of a God forbid moment, needs a rabbi in a store? I explained that I just hiked near her house, and while we were going to surprise her, I don't look or smell very rabbinic. We went anyways, and after our hellos and our air hugs, one of Kathy's coworkers, a woman named Christine, asked if I would sit down with her. She told me her story in a similar way to how I tell a story, which is not very linear. It jumped around and across centuries. Christine's son had just died and she was broken. Her husband and teenage daughter were trying to work through the grief of losing a son and a brother, a seemingly healthy son in college whose cancer diagnosis progressed so quickly. I assume that this is why a rabbi emergency was called on a Thursday, to help Christine, this non-Jewish woman, through her sorrow. But then Christine's story went on. She wanted to be Jewish. She loves Judaism and always felt connected to Judaism. This must be why I was called in, to start counseling her toward conversion, to recommend books and classes and set up regular appointments for questions and discussions. But again, no, I jumped to conclusions too quickly. She remembers her grandmother in Mexico, lighting candles on Friday nights, making circles with her hands and mumbling something. She never thought much of it. She was handed a silver cup and told to keep it in the family. On display in her house, a friend came over and asked why Christine had a Kiddush cup. She started doing research, poking around, and asked her grandmother. In a faint whisper, days before Abuelita died, she told Christine that they were Jewish, that they could trace their ancestry through 25 generations to royalty in Spain. The mayor of the town and the rabbi, passed down from generation to generation, were silver cups and candlesticks, the family secret not shared until the matriarch was about to die, through countries on 3 continents. She, it turns out, is Jewish. She, who didn't know she was Jewish until she was in her late 40s. She, whose name does not sound Jewish, who always felt connected to Judaism even before she'd ever met a Jew herself. She, who fell in love with a Jewish man and raised Jewish kids and converted those kids, and always felt like she was getting the stink eye from her synagogue because she didn't come across as Jewish, was Jewish all along. This year I've heard from so many Jews who don't look like your traditional Ashkenazi Jews. Jews who are black and Asian and Hispanic. Jews who get the sideways glances when they go to shul or Jewish events. Who have to constantly explain themselves to people who think Jews should look like Gal Gadot or Jerry Seinfeld or a bearded Hasidic Rebbe. On Instagram, there's an entity called Hey Elma. And on Tuesdays, they put out a game that they hope is fun, though I'm sure they get a lot of mail about it. The game is called Jew or Not. And they put up pictures of celebrities and politicians and athletes, and you guess if they're Jewish or not. And it is surprising every time. People who look Jewish, whose names sound Jewish, who have played Jews in movies, turn out to not be Jewish. Conversely, people who don't look like the Jewish kids from my Hebrew school class, turns out they're Jewish. Last year I heard a story from my colleague, Rabbi Angela Buchdahl. Rabbi Buchdahl is an Asian Jew and a great rabbi and an incredible singer. She was counseling a couple before their wedding, and the groom was trying to convince his fiancée to convert. The fiancée, tall and blonde and, well, not looking like the typical Jew, was really interested in the theology. And she loved the holidays and Shabbat. She dove into the learning. In one of their last sessions, the rabbi asked the groom what he loved most about being Jewish. And he said, "I love that I can look around the room and just get a sense of who's Jewish just by looking." The fiancé then asked, "Would you think that I'm Jewish?" He realized that with all the beauty of our peoplehood that his beloved had learned, with all of our holidays and customs and language and recipes and prayers, of all the things he could say, the idea of looking Jewish and saying it to his Asian rabbi and his statuesque fiancée was the wrong answer. The couple got married, but the woman did not convert. If in her husband's eyes she would never be seen as Jewish, what was the point? A distant cousin called me a few years ago. I believe that she is my third cousin once removed. And we started looking into our family tree that goes back 6 generations. Unlike Christine, I can't trace my roots much further back than this one family tree. The cousin tells me that the furthest back ancestor we know of, my great-great-great-grandmother, was not born Jewish. She was so ugly, the story goes, that no one in town would marry her. A poor Jewish merchant came to town, and her father liked him. The father married his daughter off to this impoverished Yid, supposedly giving them both a better life. My most distant ancestor wasn't Jewish, but Christine's was. It brings to mind the question of what is being Jewish. Is it merely handed down through birthright, or is it something that we can embrace and become fully? I love the fact that you can adopt Judaism and become Jewish, that no one can question your Judaism after that. I love the fact that Jews look more diverse today than we did a generation ago, and that's beautiful. Probably every family here has been touched by this progress. How incredible. A rabbi and a priest were talking. This is not a joke. This actually happened. A rabbi, Daniel Graber, was talking to a priest in his community in Durham about obtaining membership in their houses of worship. The priest said, "To be a member of our church, all you have to do is say that you believe in Jesus and all that that entails. You sign on to the same theology as everyone else in the church, and you are one of us." So, how do you become a member of your synagogue? The rabbi gulped in embarrassment. We don't care what you believe. You just have to write a check and fill out some paperwork. The rabbi told me this story in shame, but I see it as beautiful. We don't need identical doxologies. We don't need to all think alike for us to be a united community. There are many pathways to Judaism. There are many pathways to God. Some have deep belief and some question. Some are atheists, but cultural or gastronomic Jews, and they are still part of our community. You've never heard that before? Gastronomic Jews? It's good, right? Some believed in God yesterday and then yelled at God today and will be comforted by community tomorrow. You don't have to share the same views on God that I do to be part of this community. The words of Kol Nidre admit this. They remind us that sometimes the things that we say and the things that we think are not constant. We can really mean it today and feel differently about it tomorrow. We take back the promises and the oaths and the vows because we are human, we are evolving, and we are growing. If there is one line of Torah, one line of the Bible that most Jews know, it's from the first chapters of Deuteronomy. It's not merely a line of Torah, we've made it a prayer, a central prayer in the morning service and in the evening service. We say it when we wake, when we go to bed, when we travel, and when we're stuck at home. Shema Yisrael, Adonai, Eloheinu, Adonai, Echad. My teacher, Rabbi Sholwai, says, some prayers I read and just simply don't pay attention to, but this prayer I have never read or heard without feeling that it captured the very heart, the very marrow of Jewish life. What does it say? First of all, the prayer is remarkable because it doesn't talk to God. Every other prayer seems to be directed at God. I'd expect it to say Shema Elohim, Shema Adonai. No, it's talking to us. Shema Yisrael. Listen, Jews. But just listen to what? To the very essence of God. And the essence of God, the only predicate that the whole Bible uses to emphasize God's essence in our world. Think about the statement. God is blank. What would you fill in that blank? God is omnipotent. Or God is omnipresent. No. The only word that the Bible fills in there is in Shema. The last word here, Echad. Did you say, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord is all-knowing. The Lord is all-powerful. The Lord is everywhere"? The Lord isn't even all good, according to this unity, oneness, Echad. It was the Jewish tradition that understood that we are, all of us, interconnected. Look at how you're sitting right now, where your hands are, where your feet are. This is how your great-great-great-grandfather sat. I am an echo of those who came before me, and I am someone's ancestor. Our prophet Isaiah knew this as well. He preached to the Jews, Habitu el tzur chutzavtem, look back to the rock that you were hewn from. Look back to Sarah and Abraham. God blessed them, and you are their progeny. You carry that blessing. I love that Isaiah says this. I love that we're hewn from the same quarry of our ancestors. And the imagery used by the prophet is that we are hewn from the same holy rock of those who came before us. One of the names for God that Isaiah uses is Tzur, rock. Where do you come from? Not just your parents or your great-great-great-grandparents who sit like you, not just from Abraham and Sarah, but also from Hatzur, from God. We are hewn from Makor Chaim, from the source of life. How beautifully unlonely this year to carry that flint, that piece of soul within you. Being echad, being one, is not easy. It means that we can't put others down. We can't denigrate. We have to take care of others as much as we take care of ourselves because we are one. Maybe you've seen that Jewish quote splayed across benches around the valley, written in Hebrew Torah font, Ve'ahavta l're'echa kamocha. Love your fellow human being the same way that you love yourself. It's from Leviticus. We'll read it tomorrow afternoon. Some rabbis of antiquity debated this line. Who is re'echa, your fellow human being? Is it only your next door neighbor? The one that you agree with? The one who goes to the same shul or the same school or the same politics as you? Does it include competitors or someone I once had a spat with? The context is maximalist. It's universal. Take care of everyone else, not just yourself, not just those who are like you, not just those you know, everyone. And if we think about the power of breath, if we think about the atomic level, about the laws of inertia, about the molecules that make us up, we know that we are interconnected throughout time in addition to space. What I do today affects the next generation and the next and the next. The stone they will be cut from includes us and our story and our choices. We are echad, even if I will never meet them generations hence. What ties us together, what unites us, we call God. God is the echad. If we are bound by God, then how do we act towards one another? As if we are one, loving and compassionate. Jonathan Safran Foer writes something in his book, We Are the Weather, that I find fascinating. He writes, every inhalation includes molecules from Julius Caesar's final exhalation. The magical compression of time and space. The implications were almost unbelievable. If I just inhaled Caesar's last breath, then I also must have inhaled Beethoven's and Darwin's, and that of Roosevelt and Rosa Parks and Elvis and the Pilgrims and Native Americans at that first Thanksgiving, and even the grandfather that I never met. And every breath of everyone, not only of humans, but all other animals too. And with each inhale, I absorbed the story of life and death on earth. Caesar's ending was also a beginning. His was the first recorded autopsy, which is how we know that he was stabbed 23 times. The iron daggers are gone. The blood-soaked toga is gone. The curia of Pompeii in which he was killed is gone, and the metropolis in which it stood only exists as ruins. It's hard to think of a more ephemeral artifact of a civilization than a breath, but it's impossible to think of a more enduring one. Jonathan Safran Foer's vision of our interconnectedness puts a burden on us in a year when we're very aware of everyone's intertwined breaths. Our holy breath is godly. We have no way of escaping our unity. The Torah says, Atem nitzavim hayom kulchem lifnei Adonai. Today, you are all standing in front of God, leaders and elders and children and converts who have chosen to be part of your community, all entering this covenant together as one, not one better than the other. It continues, I make this covenant not with you alone, but with those standing with you this day and those who are not standing with us here today. It's binding for all future generations. Let us see and count every Jew equally as part of the Jewish people, just as God does. When I was in college, I saw an art installation that was a video of the Exodus from Egypt. I don't know if it was from the movie The Ten Commandments, or if they got actors to do it more recently, or if this is real footage from 3,300 years ago. But you stand there watching hundreds of people walking through the parted sea. It's incredible to look at these people who are supposed to be my ancestors, our ancestors, experiencing a great miracle, tasting freedom, smiles on their faces, escaping Pharaoh and slavery. I was trying to take it all in, each face, when I noticed, among the representation of my ancestors, I noticed myself. That's me. Was I there? Did I forget that I was part of this thing with hundreds of extras? Did it just look like me? But as I furrowed my brow to look closer, so did the projected image. Then I moved, and so did the projected image. There was a hidden camera and a projector, so that I was in this historical moment. I was projected there among my people. And so would you be. And so would Christine. We would all see ourselves in this foundational story. This is your story. Your story that you share with all of us, with all those who came before you and all those who will come after you. The other day at breakfast, my 4.5-year-old son, my 4 3/4-year-old son, asked me, what is a Jew? He then took a bite of his homemade chocolate chip waffle with peanut butter on top, while my brain reeled. Do I go into ethical monotheism, the idea that we believe in one God, a kind and vulnerable and true God? Do I explain mitzvot, the good deeds we do to stay connected to religion, to our tradition, our community, and our Torah? In the brief seconds that I was trying to come up with an answer, he said, is a Jew someone who is Jewish? And with a smile on my face, I said, yes. I couldn't come up with a better answer than that. I laughed to myself at this answer, but it works perfectly. I can't define Judaism. It's a little different for everyone. So maybe the only way to define it is to break the rule and use the word in its own definition. We are Jews, in all forms, with many understandings of the world, with diverse backgrounds. May we remember this year, may we remember how connected we are. And may we look out for each other so that we are all sealed for a year of goodness. Gamar Chatima Tova. You may now open back your machzor. As I'm getting news. We're on page 446. Thank you. We invite up Lisa and Hardy Warren to open up the ark for us. We're on page 446 with the words of Yahweh. If you're able, please rise as the birthday boy and his wife open up the ark for us. I ruined it. I'm sorry.
Yalle, yalle, tachonenu me'erev, v'yavo shavatenu miboker, v'yera'erinunenu ad arev, v'yera'erinunenu ad arev. Yalle, yalle, koleinu me'erev, v'yavo tzidkateinu miboker, v'yera'e pidyoneinu ad arev, v'yera'e pidyoneinu ad arev.
Join me at the bottom of page 447, the final two stanzas. May our knocking at your gates be heard at nightfall, our joy come to us in the morning, and our petition be granted at dusk. May our cry rise up to you at nightfall, our plea reach your presence in the morning, and your mercy be shown to us at dusk.
Yalle, yalle, dafkeinu me'erev, v'yavo gileinu miboker, v'yera'e bakashateinu ad arev, v'yera'e bakashateinu ad arev. Yalle, yalle, ein kateinu me'erev, יבוא אליך מבוקר, וירא אלינו עד ערב, וירא אלינו עד ערב.
With the ark closed, you may be seated. We're on page 448 and 449 at the bottom of the page. And we'll read together in the English that bottom paragraph, but it just strikes me that the word here, hanashama lach, here translated as the soul is yours, also means the breath, our breath is yours. So join with me at the bottom of page 449, that paragraph. The soul is yours, the body is your creation. Have compassion on your handiwork. The soul is yours, the body is yours. Forgive us, Lord, for the sake of your name. We have come trusting in you. Lord, deal kindly for your name's sake. Gracious and compassionate God, forgive us, for numerous are our sins.
הנשמה לך, והגוף לך, הוסה על עמלך. הנשמה לך, והגוף שלך, אדוני עושה למען שמך. אהתנו על שמך אדוני, עושה למען שמך. בעבור כבוד שמך, כי אל חנון ורחום שמך. למען שמך אדוני, וסלחת לעווננו כי רב הוא.
I'd like to invite up Joe Weiss onto the bima. We're on page 453, and Joe will lead us responsively in his best teacher voice. On page 453, a prelude to the 13 attributes, these 13 names for God will be reciting in just a moment.
Who has ever lived who did not sin? Is there any mortal untainted by iniquity?
No one is free of all transgression. All, therefore, stand in need of God's forgiveness.
Our ancestors sinned at the very foot of Sinai, when the command of God had just been proclaimed.
Though they pledged, we will do, we will obey, they soon broke their promise of loyalty to God.
Faithlessly they broke the commandments of the Lord. They fashioned and worshipped a calf of gold.
How wondrous, then, was God's compassion, for God did not destroy the rebellious people.
Subduing the divine wrath, God forgave our ancestors, revealing the 13 aspects of divine mercy.
Now we, O Lord, come before you in contrition, recalling those same attributes of your compassion.
As you have mercy upon our ancestors, have mercy upon us, we pray, for we, O God, have also sinned.
We too forsake and break our pledge. We too worship the work of our own hands. We too make a gold of God. We too cast off the Torah's yoke.
Show compassion, O Lord, forgive our sins, for we, like our ancestors, need your pardon.
We're on page 454 to say these 13 names of God.
Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum Vechanun, Erech Apayim, V'Rav Chesed Ve'emet, Noseh Chesed La'alafim, Noseh Avon V'Chesha V'Chata V'Nakeh.
Pardon our iniquity and our sin. Take us to be your own. Forgive us, our Lord, for we have sinned. Pardon us, our Sovereign, for we have transgressed. For you, O Lord, generously forgive. Great is your love for all who call upon you.
V'salachta la'avonenu, u'chatachtartenu u'cheltanu. Slach lanu avinu ki chatanu, michalanu malkeinu ki pashanu. Ki ata Adonai tov v'salach, v'rav chesed l'chol korecha.
We're on page 458 for Shema Kolenu. Those who are able, please rise, and we invite up Joe Tischler and Nomi Fried to open up the ark for us.
Shema Kolenu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chus v'rachem aleinu, aleinu. V'kabel berachamim, ברחמים וברצון את תפילתנו. השיבנו אדוני אליך, השיבנו אליך ונשובה, חדש ימינו, ימינו, כקדם. אל תשליכנו מלפניך, ורוח קדשך אל תיקח ממנו. אל תשליכנו לעת זקנה, ככלות כוחנו אל תעזבנו. אל תעזבנו, אדוני אלוהינו, אל תרחק, תרחק ממנו.
As the ark is closed, you may be seated. We'll read Shema Kolenu in English on 459. Hear our voice, Lord our God, spare us, pity us, accept our prayer in your gracious love. Turn us to you, O Lord, and we shall return. Renew us as in days of old. Do not banish us from your presence. Do not deprive us of your Holy Spirit. Do not cast us off in old age. When our strength declines, do not forsake us. Do not forsake us, O Lord our God. Do not make yourself distant from us. Page 460.
Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu, selach lanu mechalanu, kaper lanu. Ki anu amecha ve'ata Eloheinu, anu vanecha Beata Avinu, Anu Avadecha, Beata Adonenu, Anu Kehalecha, Beata Chelkeinu, Anu Nachalatecha, Beata Golenu, Anu Tzonecha, Beata Ro'enu, Anu Karmecha, Beata Notrenu, Anu Ve'ulatecha, Beata Yosreinu, Anu Rayatecha, Beata Dodenu, Anu Segulatecha, Beata Kroveinu, Anu Amecha, Beata Makeinu, Anu Mamirecha, Beata Mamireinu.
We are arrogant, but you are merciful. We are obstinate, but you are patient. We are laden with sin, but you abound in compassion. We are as a passing shadow, but you are eternal. Those who are able, we rise. We're on page 462.
Ay, 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 ay. Ashamnu,
Ashamnu,
Bagadnu,
Bagadnu,
Gazalnu,
Gazalnu,
Dibarnu Dofi. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Hevinu, Behirshanu, Zadnu, Chamasnu, Tafalnu Sheker. Ay, 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 ay. Ya'atznu Ra, Kizavnu, La'atznu, Maradnu, Ni'atznu. Ay, 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 ay. Sararnu, Avinu, Pashanu, Sararnu, Kishinu Oref. Ay, 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 ay. Rashanu, Shichatnu, Ti'avnu, Ta'inu, Titanu. Ay, 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 ay.
We turn forward now to page 466. We'll start in Hebrew and then we'll say the words in English as well.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'imutz chalev ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'vitui sfatayim al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'galui uv'satater ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'dibur peh.
We'll go to the English responsively. We have sinned against you by hardening our hearts.
We have sinned against you by speaking perversely.
We have sinned against you publicly and privately.
We have sinned against you by corrupt speech.
We have sinned against you by evil thoughts.
We have sinned against you by insincere confession.
We have sinned against you by intentionally and unintentionally.
We have sinned against you
by desecrating your name.
For all these sins, O God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, grant us atonement.
V'yakulam Elohai selichot, selach lanu mechalanu, kaper lanu. V'yakulam Elohai selichot, selach lanu mechalanu, selach lanu mechalanu, kaper lanu.
We have sinned against you by foolish talk.
We have sinned against you knowingly and unknowing,
We have sinned against you by bribery.
and we have sinned against you by slander,
We have sinned against you in eating and drinking.
and we have sinned against you in false pride.
For all these sins, O God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, grant us atonement.
V'yakulam Elohai selichot, selach lanu mechalanu, kaper lanu. V'yakulam Elohai selichot, selach lanu mechalanu, selach lanu mechalanu, kaper lanu.
We have sinned against you by wanton glances.
And we have sinned against you by
We have sinned against you by perverting justice.
and we have sinned against you by envy,
We have sinned against you by being stubborn.
and we have sinned against you by elder,
We have sinned against you by causeless hatred.
and we have sinned against you by confusion of values.
For all these sins, O God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, grant us atonement.
V'yakulam Elohai selichot, selach lanu mechalanu, kaper lanu. V'yakulam Elohai selichot, selach lanu mechalanu, selach lanu mechalanu, kaper lanu.
We call upon two of our past presidents, Harvey Moskowitz and Miles Simpson, to open up the Ark for us. We're on page 472 as we sing Avinu Malkeinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu v'Haneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu v'Haneinu, Ki ein banu ma'asim. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu v'Haneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu v'Haneinu, Ki ein banu ma'asim. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed v'hoshienu. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'chesed v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu.
You may, for a brief moment, be seated. Page 476, Kaddish Shalem.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה ויעמד דברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה בזמן קריב ואמרו אמן שמי רבה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי דקודשה לעילה לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן ביעלמה דמירן ביעלמה ויאמרו תתקבל צלותון ובאותון דכל ישראל קדם אבהון דבישמיא ודבישמיא ואמרו יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיא בחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו
We invite up the Schoenwalds to open up the ark for us. We're on page 478 with the words of Aleinu. Those who are able, please rise as the ark is open.
עלינו לשבח אדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצון, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה השמיים ועושה את הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגבי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת עינות. Lai la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 okay nekabal ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
As the ark is closed, you may be seated. Thank you, Jeff and Sherry. Tonight, with this service, we transition from the 9th of Tishrei to the 10th of Tishrei, and we note the yard sites in our community of Benjamin Ratson, Jacob Pordavudi, Murray Shapiro, Richard M. Golden, Anna Leah Friedman, Bernard Wiener, Bertie Sneed, Gilbert Guzik, Jenny H. Torchin, Rosie Sommerfeld, and Sarah Kern. May their memories be beautiful ones to those who remember them and love them. It should be noted that during the week we invite people, and on Shabbat too, we ask people who have a yard site to share who they're remembering, whose yard site it is, whether they're on this list or not, whether they're part of our community or not. If they have a yard site, they have a story to share about their mother, their cousin, their neighbor, their friend, whoever they have a yard site for, they're welcome to share that. So if during the year you have a yard site and you want to share with us who you're remembering, so it's not just a name on the list, but it's something that you can add some of their background and who they were, who they are, and who they are to you. Whether it's on Zoom or in person, you're welcome to do that throughout the year. If you're in a period of mourning or you're observing a yard site, you're welcome to rise and join with us for Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish, on page 482 or 483. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah Be'alma divara kirute ve'amlich malchute V'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala u'vizman kariv ve'imru Amen Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevorach Leolam Olmei Olmaya Yit Barach V'yit Tabach V'yit Pa'ar V'yit Romam V'yit Naseh V'yit Hadar V'yit Ale V'yit Halal Shemei Dukudasha B'richu Le'ela Le'ela Mikol Birchata V'shirata Tush Bechata V'nechamata Da'amiran Be'alma V'imru Amen Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chaim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen Osei Shalom B'mromav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen. You may be seated. I want to thank you all for being here. I noticed one person walk in late, so I'm going to invite Sherry back up here to share her story again for anybody who didn't hear it. I invite Sherry to come up here to share some announcements with our community.
You're funny, too. Wow, thank you. How do we say thank you for this extraordinarily moving service this evening? It seems hard to say, but thank you, Rabbi Rachel, thank you for your beautiful words. Kenny and choir, just beautiful. You added so much to our service this evening and our Kol Nidre kickoff to Yom Kippur. So, following through, tomorrow morning we will meet back in the tent for the children's or family service at 8:30, and back here and online for everyone online. Thank you. We'll be back here at 9:30 a.m. I hope you all loved this as much as I did and found it as moving. Have a wonderful evening and an easy fast.
Thank you, Sherry. We'll conclude on page 486 as cantor Kenny Ellis and Eileen Weiser and the choir of Melody Greenwald, Larry Ehrlichman, Harold Edberg, Melissa Cohen, Janet Blake, and Aaron Ellis lead us in singing Yigdal. We're on page 486.
Yigdal Elohim Chai ve'yishtabach Nimsa ve'ened el mitziuto אחד ואין יחיד כייחודו, לעם וגם אין סוף לאחדותו. אין לו דמות הגוף ואינו גוף, לא נערוך אליו קדושתו. קדמו לכל דבר אשר נברא, ראשון ואין ראשית לראשיתו. הינו אדון עולם וכל נוצר, ירא גדולתו ומלכותו. שפע נבואתו נתן אוהל, אנשי סגולתו ותפארתו. לא קם בישראל כמו שעוד, נביא ומביט את אמונתו. תורת אמת נתן לימואל, על יד נביאו נאמן ביתו. לא יכל להיבהל ולא ימיר דתו, לעולמים לזולתו. צופה ויודע סתרנו, מביט לסוף דבר בקדמתו. גומל לאיש חסד כמפעלו, נותן לרשע רע כרישתו. ישלח לקץ ימין משיחנו, לפדות מחקקת ישועתו. מתים יחייל ברוב חסדו, ברוך עדי עד שם תהילתו.
Two final thoughts as we're taking off our taluses. One is, it struck me as we were saying, forgive us, pardon us, grant us atonement, that word atonement can also be seen as at-one-ment, that we can, please God, grant us at-one-ment, a sense of unity and a sense of peace. We say on this holiday, we say, have an easy fast. As a reminder, this is my yearly reminder to you, that this is not a competition, that afterwards, it's not about who can say that they fasted the longest and, oh, well, we had dinner earlier. I didn't even have dinner. I only had lunch. It's just that going back about it's not about that, and I'll talk more about it tomorrow. So if you are taking medication, please don't fast. If you should be taking medication, please don't fast. If you are pregnant, if you are nursing, if you are recently pregnant or nursing, if you're trying to get pregnant, if you know somebody who is pregnant, if you saw a pregnant lady walk in here tonight, please don't fast. For those of you who are not going to fast, though, try to change something. So if tomorrow morning with breakfast, because you have to take your pill, and so instead of having 3 cups of coffee and 7 pancakes and 2 dozen eggs or whatever, try to make it different. Try to limit yourself and change something. And those who are fasting, please have an easy fast. Have a good night. Get out of here carefully. Thank you very much for joining us online or in person. Thank you to our ushers and for everybody making this possible tonight.
Thank you.
It ain't Rosh Hashanah.